A lot of folks are doing well. The top 1% are doing extremely well. They're back on track. But the 99% who are trying to play by the rules every single day, put food on the table, send their kids to school, they're still suffering.
There is no workers' share as their productivity increases. It's all gone to the top.
Well, in this country, if you have money, just money alone, it makes money for you. You don't have to create jobs. You don't have to do anything. The whole world could be unemployed, but the stock market's doing good.
Anyone you ask will say, no, I'm free and independent. I'm not influenced by anything. Sure, that's a reflexive answer. Nobody thinks they're being subjected to propaganda. If they did, the propaganda wouldn't be working.
No, we don't have free trade, and nor do we have a free market. We have giant conglomerates. I think the economy is so skewed in this country. And by the way, the skewing of our economy is skewing our democracy.
And so in other words, people have created racist policies out of economic, political, and sometimes cultural self-interest. And then they have, or their propagandists have produced racist ideas to defend those existing policies. And then the circulation of those racist ideas have led to our ignorance and hate. And so I, enslave black people because I want to make money. And then I produce racist ideas that these people should be enslaved because they're black.
There were 60 people in the room, women and children as well as men, in Oklahoma City, trying to start an oil workers union. 6 men came in with overcoats on, and they didn't take their overcoats off. They just stood against the back wall. And the organizer leaned over to me and Woody Guthrie, the other singer there. Woody was the extraordinary man who wrote This Land Is Your Land and several thousand other songs. He says, those men don't take off their overcoats. They may have clubs under them. They may be intending to break up the meeting. See if you can get the crowd singing. Well, we did get them all singing, the women and kids too. And they never did break up the meeting. Afterwards, they came forward and said, this is a different kind of a meeting than we were told it was going to be. We were told you were a bunch of communists who wanted to overthrow the government. And they had clubs under baseball bats under their overcoats. They did say, you ought to have an American flag here. And the organizer said, you're right. Next meeting we'll have one right near the table.
I think the big challenge for the labor movement in America is the systematic attack by the extreme right, the systematic attack by certain corporations that want to make sure that unions don't have a right to organize, that workers don't have a right to come together.
And we were determined not to let one bullet kill a movement, only a man but not a movement. We thought Dr. King would have us pick up the broken pieces and move on. And Dr. Lauer would often say it's not so much who killed him, but what killed him, a sick society. So we felt the burden, even with heavy hearts and lots of pain, to march on. Because if we had stopped at Calvary, so to speak, we couldn't have gone on to the resurrection. So we went on, we marched in Memphis. We went on to Washington to the Resurrection City, the Bull People's Campaign. We refused to let one bullet kill a movement.
In the last 30 years, since the Reagan so-called revolution that started with trying to make government look bad, starve the beast, what we've seen is a 30-year assault on public institutions. And we see it in terms of education all the time. The institution that has been probably the most important institution in a capitalist democracy, public education, is viewed by the elite as something to go after.
There is a rice company in Greenville, Mississippi, used to be known as Uncle Ben's, but now it's the Mars Food Company, and they make candy bars too, not just rice. But they have a temporary worker system where you can work there for 10 years and still be called a temporary worker. And when asked how can you justify keeping someone on as a temporary worker and never making them permanent for 10 years, one of their managers said to me one time, well, that's a job we don't need anyone permanent for. But who do you think you're talking to, and who do you think believes you when you say that? If I work for 10 years, I'm permanent.
Well, right now we're confronted with a combination of a very large wave of anti-labor sentiment that's been pumped up beginning in the States and now spreading to Canada, primarily by a group of billionaires who have decided that they would be better off if there were no labor unions.
You look anywhere around the world, in a key component to setting up a democratic society is having a strong independent labor movement. And it's kind of ironic that for years, it doesn't matter was a Republican president or Democratic president, they understood if they wanted to help build democracy, whether it was in South Africa or South America or Eastern Europe, wherever, one of the ways to do that was to support a strong trade union movement. And in every advanced democratic society, there is a strong trade union movement. And then in countries like Hitler's fascism or Russia, when they didn't want democracy, who were one of the first groups they went after? It was the trade unions.